Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We'll continue our lesson in the book Sarf Book 1. In the previous halaqa, we had completed the different ways in which the ziyada, increase, is found in the word. And we took an exercise at the end of the lesson, walillah alhamd, just to practice, understand how these additions occur to the word. So what we're going to do, inshallah, is take it from the fourth muqaddimah, the bottom of page number 7. The author says, Al-Muqaddimah al-Rabi'ah, the fourth preface or introduction. Al-Dhamair, the pronouns. Al-Dhamir, he says, Jam'uhu dhamair, qisman. The pronoun is of two types. Dhamirun muttasirun wa dhamirun munfasil. Dhamirun muttasil, which is a connective pronoun, and dhamirun munfasil, which is a disconnected pronoun. And the dhamir itself, it would be good to know what a dhamir is. The dhamir is that which will point you towards someone. ما دل على متكلم, and it points you to either the first person or مخاطب, or the second person, or the ghaib, the third person. So it's a noun that will point you to one of those three people. The first person, like ana. When I say ana, there's no doubt that I'm speaking about myself. This is a pronoun, this is a dhamir. If I say anta, then this is the second person. If I say huwa or here, this is the third person. So this is what the dhamir is. This type of a dhamir, which points towards first person, second person, third person. ما دل على معين. They say ما دل على معين بقرينة التكلم أو الخطاب أو الغيبة. This is how they define it. That which points towards a mu'ayyan, someone specific. It points towards someone specific, either by way of takallum. So when you're saying ana nahnu, this is the way. This is takallum. If you say anta, anti, antuma, this is a khitab. And if you're saying huwa, hiya, hum, ila akhir dhalik, this is ghayba. Jayd, third person. So it splits into two categories. It's either connecting, and then we're dealing with the verb here. So he says it's two قسمان. الأول ضمير متصل, a connecting pronoun, هو الذي يتصل بالفعل مثل التاء ونا في مثل علمت ودرسنا. The متصل is the pronoun that connects directly to the verb, such as the ta and the na and the likes of your statement علمت ودرسنا. So if you say علمت, this is a dhamir. Where's the dhamir in it? Should say the two. Okay, how do you know it's a dhamir? Nam. So it's pointing. It pointed to someone specific. When I say to, who is that specific person that is being intended? Alimtu. Nam. Mutakallim. So it pointed to someone specific by way of takallum, him being the speaker, first person. What about darasna? Same thing. They pointed to us by way of takallum. He says, وهذا سيأتي بيانه في تصريف الأفعال إن شاء الله تعالى. This will come, the clarification of it, and the conjugations of the verbs, inshallah. The second type of pronoun is dhamirun munfasil, is a disconnected pronoun. وهو الذي لا يتصل بالفعل, and it's a pronoun that does not connect to the verb. كما هو في الجدول الآتي, as is found in the following jadwal, this chart here. Now this chart must be memorized. You're going to need it for the rest of the book. Even if a person wants to do book 2 after this, the structure is the same structure. And depending on the book that you may study in Sarf or in grammar, they may have the pronouns listed differently. They may start, for example, with ana, nahnu, and then mention anta after that, and then mention huwa at the end. But here he started with a ghayba, third person, then he went into the second person, the khitab, and then he went into first person, which is the takallum. And you can see that on the left-hand side, right? On the left-hand side, he says ghaib, ghaiba. So the first row, how are you going to use this is, the first row, looking at it on the left-hand side, ghaib, ghaiba, that's the third person. Ghaib is the male, ghaiba is going to be the female. So the first row will be for a male, that's third person. The second row will be for the female, that's third person. Then you have above, mufrad. So you have mufrad, ghaiba, single, third person female. Then you have mufrad, ghaib, single, third person male. Then you have muthanna, which is a dual form, which is something almost exclusive, if you can say. There are not many languages, if there are, that use a dual form, which is found in the Arabic. For the single person, the person who is alone, and the person who is, or the two people and the plural, usually you have the same word. Like in English, you'll say you people, maybe if you want to make it a plural. But in Arabic, you have this structure where it gives you the dual form as well. Then you have jam', which is a plural. So we have so far dealt with ghaib, third person, and we've dealt with single, mufrad, muthanna, dual, and jam' being the plural. Then on the right hand side you have mudhakkar, masculine, and mu'annath, feminine. So how are you to use this chart? If I want to address a male who is the single male, third person, I'm going to go to the first box. Mudhakkar, mufrad, ghaib, huwa. If I want to address the single female, third person, I'll come to here. Because mu'annath, above it is mufrad and to the left is ghaiba. I think that's wadih, huh? Coming down from there, again, on the right hand side you have mudhakkar, mu'annath. The only thing that changes here is you're dealing with the second person. So now we've entered the state of al-mukhatab. Al-mukhatab or al-khitab. So you have this category, the first line and second line, being used for the people who you're speaking to directly. As for the third person, ghaib, then either they can be present and you're not addressing them, like you would say in English, he took my book, and he's right beside you. You're not talking to him, you're talking to someone else, where you say, he took my book. And they can actually be absent from your presence at home or wherever they may be, and you will say, he took my book. But the mukhatab is the one you're addressing directly. So you use for this anta if it's a single male, second person is anti, single female, second person, and then going across based on what is on the top there, mufrad, single, muthanna, and then jam'. Then you have in the final line on the bottom mudhakkar and mu'annath, yani meaning that this is mushtarak. Both male and female can use ana and nahnu. And you find some of those who try to change this for the female, and they will say ani for the female, ani. This is just slang, it's not pure Arabic. The woman is ana, and just like the man is ana. So like I mentioned, these must be memorized. And you need to be able to use them quickly, be able to understand the context that you're speaking in and which one you want to bring in order for it to be smooth Arabic, inshallah. So going through them is huwa, huma, hum, he, the two of them, hiya, she, huma, the two of them, hunna, the group of those females, anta, you, single male, antuma, antum, yani the two of you, antum, the group of you, males, anti, you, single female, antuma, the two of you, females, antunna, the group of you, females, ana and nahnu, I and we. طيب المقدمة الخامسة, the fifth forward or preface, he says الفعل ثلاثة أقسام, the verb is of three categories. And this is a revision for us, we've taken it already. He says ماض, past tense, هو الذي يدل على وقوع الفعل قبل زمن التكلم مثل جلس وشرب. The past tense verb is the verb that indicates that the action occurred before the person spoke. قبل زمن التكلم. So if the action happens before you spoke about it, then it's ماض. جاء محمد. When did Muhammad come? Before you spoke. So it's past tense. مضارع, present tense, هو الذي يدل على وقوع الفعل في الحال أو الاستقبال. The مضارع indicates the action that occurs في الحال, يعني now, present time, or في الاستقبال, or the future. مثل يجلس وسيشرب, like يجلس or سيشرب. Even if you were to leave it as يشرب without that scene, it would still be a fi'l which is مضارع. So he brought the scene here to clarify the استقبال, and this is known in grammar as حرف التنفيس. So if you were to say سيذهب, he's going, This is not like يذهب. It makes it exclusive to the future. But the فعل مضارع, as we mentioned, في أصل وضعه, in its original state and structure, it indicates that the action can happen in the future. As we give an example, person who is by the door, he has not even left yet the masjid, and you say, where are you going? أين تذهب? And they say, أذهب إلى البيت. I'm going to the house. أذهب إلى البيت. And they're by the door, they haven't even left, they're just standing there. جيد. The third of these is the command, أمر. He says, وهو الذي يدل على طلب وقوع الفعل في الاستقبال. The command verb is the verb in which there's a request for the action to take place in the استقبال, the future. مثل like اجلس واشرب. Sit down and drink. Sit down and drink. واضح. جيد. So this is a bit of a revision for us. The author says on page number 9, أوزان الفعل الماضي وتصريفه. The scales of the past tense verb وتصريفه, and the manner that is conjugated. أوزان الفعل الماضي الثلاثي. The scales of the past tense verb which are وهو الذي عدد حروفه ثلاثة. The thulathi, he explains this by saying it is a verb that the letters, the amount of letters that it has are 3. We took that the verb, it's either going to have a 3-letter asl, 3 root letters, or 4 root letters. If it has 3 root letters, then it's referred to as thulathi. And if it has 4 root letters, then it's a rubai. So the verb, when it's 3 root letters, it can come on 3 scales for the 3 root letter verb. He gives the 3 scales here. For example, فعل, he says, number 1, فعل, like خلق, طلب, قرأ, درس, عبد. These are examples of the فعل ماضي, which is on the scale of فعل. خلق, to create, طلب, to request, قرأ, to read, درس, to study, and عبد, to worship. Number 2, فعل, like فرح, حفظ, حزن, فهم علم. فرحة, to be happy. حفظ, to memorize. حزن, to be sad. فهم, to understand, and علم is to know. Number 3, فعل. فعل is the third of these skills, like سهل, to be easy. بعد, to be far. قرب, to be near. حسن, to be good. And كرم, to be generous or to be noble. Now, what do we benefit from this? If you look at these 3 scales, we find that the middle letter, it keeps changing. If it's a 3-letter verb in the Arabic language, then it may possibly be taking a fatha in the middle. It may possibly take a kasra in the middle. Change the color just to make it a bit easier. It may take a kasra, or it may take a dhamma. So all of these options, they are available. Now the question that arises is, how will I be able to identify the middle letter of the verb? I've come across a new verb that I don't know what it means. How am I able to identify that it's on the scale of fa'ala or fa'ila or fa'ula? The author tells us here. He says, Al-Qaida, the principle. Al-fa'u wal-lamu min fa'ila. The fa and the lam from this verb is not really fa'ila, but it's the scale. Al-thulathi maftuhan. The fa and the lam, they always take a fatha. Then he says, والعين, and as for the عين, يكون مفتوحا, it may take a fatha, أو مكسورا, it may take a kasra, أو مضموما, it may take a dhamma. Then he gives you the answer by saying, وتمكنك معرفة حركة العين من كتب اللغة المعتمدة. And you are able, it is possible for you to identify the haraka, the vowel of the عين, by going back to الكتب المعتمدة. What he intends here is the معاجم and the qawamis, the dictionaries. This is how you're able to identify. So if I was to give you the verb, for example, mim, dad, ghain. Anyone know how we pronounce that? Ma, and then the last letter will be a ghain. Mim, dad, ghain. It's a 3-letter verb, right? Is it ma, daga, madhiga, or madugha? Anyone know what that means? That verb, madagha, to chew. So what you benefit from this is, if I come across that kind of a verb, I'm reading a book and I came across it. You need to know that middle letter in order to pronounce it correctly, because you may mispronounce. It's just like if you were to say in English, instead of saying begin, begin, you say begin, begin. Instead of be, you said ba, begin. Now the person listening to you, you'll probably understand what you're trying to tell him. The lesson, begin. He'll know what you're telling you, but he'll say this person has mispronounced, right? That's the same thing that will happen here if you're to mispronounce. Like you find people saying sharab al-ma. Sharab al-ma. It's understood what you're trying to say, but it should be shariba with a kasra and not sharaba with a fatha. In addition to that, understanding also these structures helps us get to the correct meaning, get to the masdar. So you're able to know it by returning back to the dictionary. And usually what the author will do, depending on it, usually I mentioned the hands wheel, is the way the author structured his dictionary, it's Sarf based dictionary. It's based on morphology. If you know Sarf, then you'll be able to use that book. So for example, the verb la'iba, to play, he will spell it. He won't put the harakat on the word, but he will spell it for you. La'iba, showing you that it's taking a kasra. Then after that, he will put a bracket and he will put the letter A. A telling you that this verb la'iba in the present tense is yal'abu. La'iba yal'abu. Jayid. Now let's go on from there. Page number 10, he says تصريف الماضي الثلاثي. The conjugation of the ماضي الثلاثي. This again is another chart. You want to make a note, you need to memorize it. The places I tell you need to memorize them, highlight them and memorize them. That's a khulasa. Because if you do not memorize them, you're going to have a hard time as you continue in the book. And you're going to have a hard time as you continue in your studies as well. But once you get this out the way, how the verbs are conjugated, it will help you very much in your studies. So page number 10, تصريف الماضي الثلاثي, the conjugation of this past tense verb, which is 3 letters. Now we've taken already how this jadwal, this type of a chart works. So we've taken the words, mudhakkar, mu'annith, male, female, single, mufrad, muthanna, dual, and jam. And then you have on the side, ghaib, mukhatab, and mutakallim. Now he's no longer using the pronoun, but those same pronouns and how they were written, they're working here. So if I was discussing huwa, I would be using the first box for fa'ala. If I was addressing huwa, I would be using fa'ala. If I was addressing huma, I would be using fa'ala. If I would be addressing hum, hakada. Everyone is understood, I believe. Right? So this is how the verb is conjugated. Fa'ala for him, fa'ala for the two of them, fa'alu for them, the group of males, fa'alat for the single female, third person, hiya, fa'alat. Fa'alata is for the two females, fa'alna for the group of females, fa'alta is for anta, the single male who you're speaking to directly, fa'alta, you did, fa'altuma, the two of you, fa'altum, the group of you males, fa'alti, single female, you, fa'altuma, the two of you females, fa'altunna, the group of you females, fa'altu, I, and fa'alna, we. And you can see fa'alna is mentioned 2 times only because you can use it both times, whether it's 2 people who are saying we or a group of people who are saying we, you use fa'alna. So why he mentions this chart here, he wants us to get acquainted with the conjugation. To get acquainted with the conjugation. So for example, if you to go back to page number 9, the first verb in fa'ala, khalaqa. I'm going to take khalaqa and I'm going to run khalaqa through that box. So khalaqa, I've taken the verb, come to page number 10, I'm going to use it in the jadwal, the chart. Khalaqa, khalaqa, khalaqu. You see what happened there in the first line? I've replaced the letters fa'ala with khalaqa. Everything else remains the same. Why is everything else remaining the same? Because remember we've took the mizan and the mawzoon when you're scaling the words. So khalaqa is on the scale of fa'ala. I want to use khalaqa. I'm going to remove it and place it on the scale. And any addition which is added to the verb that indicates the group, I leave it exactly as it is. So even if a person was to highlight after fa'ala, you have to highlight the alif, fa'ala, highlight the waw, fa'alu, and the dhamma. Highlight all of those changes to the ends of the words, It will help you, inshallah. You'll be able to identify the change each time. So it's خلق, خلقا, خلقوا, خلقت. تأنيث. خلقتا. It's تأنيث with the alif that indicates two. خلقنا. Then you have خلقت, خلقتما, خلقتم, خلقتي, خلقتما, خلقتن, خلقت, and خلقنا. So واضح إن شاء الله؟ طيب. If we were also to change the verb, for example, underneath the chart, he says وكذا مع كسر العين مثل فعل, فعلا, فعلوا, وكذا مع ضم العين مثل فعل, فعلا, فعلوا. So he's telling us, in other words, instead of writing three different boxes, one time for fa'ala, and one time for fa'ila, and one time for fa'ula, he just says change that middle letter. You're just going to change the haraka, that vowel of the fatha, change it to a kasra if the verb is on the scale of fa'ila. So if I was to use the verb hafidha, it would be hafidha, hafidha, hafidhu. Nothing else would change. I'm going to continue the ends of the verbs exactly as they are. And if I was to use a verb on the scale of fa'ula, like karuma, I would do the same. Karuma, karuma, karumu, karumat, ila akhiri dhalik. The author says, بيان ضمير الفاعل المتصل في التصريف في الفعل الماضي. A clarification of the pronoun of the فاعل المتصل. يعني that connected pronoun that's a فاعل in the فعل الماضي, in the past tense verb. Because we're in the past tense, he's going to be giving us a فاعل for it. One thing which we should pay attention to is that every one of those ضمائر, if it's a ضمير, then it's going to be the فاعل in this case. That ضمير, that pronoun, will be the one doing the action. So in other words, if you're to say فعلت or خرجت or جلست, that ta will be the fa'il. It's going to be the one doing the action. So he's made this chart on page number 11 to clarify where the fa'il ends and how we're able to identify the fa'il, or what the fa'il will be known to be based on these damair. So he says here فعل, فعل. طيب, there's nothing which is there, right? And the very first verb for huwa, فعل, فعل. Then he says in the chart at the very top, ضمير المتصل بالفعل, the pronoun which is connected to the فعل. So where's the pronoun in فعل? He says الضمير فيه مستتر تقديره هو. The pronoun is hidden in the verb. So when you're saying, whether it's on the scale of فعل, فعل, or فعل, if the verb is for huwa, like حفظ, for example, where is the fa'il? Where is the one doing the action? There's a hidden pronoun, which is huwa, in the verb. So it's connected, it's a ضمير which is it's متصل and مستتر في نفس الوقت. Every ضمير which is مستتر is also متصل. Take it as a principle. Every ضمير which is مستتر is also متصل. We say كل ضمير مستتر فهو متصل أيضا. It's also متصل. Meaning that it cannot be مستتر and be منفصل. It cannot be a hidden pronoun and then not be seen. Because if it's منفصل, we have to see it. So حفظ, or if you're to say كرم, or if you're to say, for example, عبد, every one of those verbs has a pronoun which is hidden in it, whether the middle letter is taking a fatha, or it's taking a kasra, or it's taking a dhamma. That's clear, inshallah? The following point the author mentions is فعلت. He says فعلت, so it's the verb فعل with the addition of this ta sakina, which he says الضمير فيه مستتر تقديره هي. The pronoun is mustatir, it's concealed, and it's going to be here. والتاء علامة التأنيث وليست بضمير. And that ta is a sign that it is a sign of femininity and it's not a pronoun. So there's a ta ta'nith here. A lot of the time you might find the person, especially when they're new to the studies, they'll come to the verb and say خرجت, say خرج فعل ماض والتاء فاعل هذا ليس بفاعل. This is just تاء تأنيث. It's just a sign that shows that the one doing the action is feminine. But where is the dhamir then? The dhamir is concealed. It's mustatir. It's hidden within the verb. Just like huwa was hidden within the single male and third person. In the same case, if we were to say hafidhat, for example, this time, then the fa'il is again the dhamir, which is mustatir, concealed pronoun, which is here. And whether the verb again is karumat or abadat, like we have these examples, then the pronoun is a concealed pronoun. Okay? It says after that, fa'ala. Fa'ala, you have fa'ala. Following column is a breakdown with the addition of this alif. This alif is referred to as alif al-ithnain, the alif of do. So it's used for two. Okay? And that's going to be the fa'il. Fa'alata, you have fa'ala plus the ta and the alif. So the alif here is alif al-ithnain, and the ta is going to be, again he says, alamatu ta'nith, walaysa bidhamir. It's a sign of femininity and it's not a pronoun. Now, if this ta here is the ta ta'nith, it's a sign of femininity, why is it again taking a fatha? The ta ta'nith should take a sukoon, is that not the case? But when he discusses this particular verb, fa'alata, you have the ta taking a haraka. So the reason why it must take a haraka in this case is, look, it's followed by an alif. The alif is a harf al-illa. If we were to leave this ta ta'nith sakin here, it would bring a complication, which would be two sukoons meeting. We'd have the ta, which is sakin, and we'd have the alif, which is sakin. So in order to avoid that, the ta was given a haraka, but essentially it should be sakin. It's the ta ta'nith, which we've just taken previously. Okay? So when you say fa'alata, and this alif here is going to be alif al-ithnain. Then you have fa'alu. Yeah, so you have fa'ala, the waw al-jama'a, plus this alif that follows the waw al-jama'a, they refer to as alif faraq, as he mentions here. He says waw al-jama'a, so you have fa'alu, waw al-jama'a, and then you have wal alif fariqa, laysat bidhamir. The alif is referred to as alif al-fariqa, it's not a pronoun. What does alif fariqa mean? The alif that separates. So what is it separating between? They have mentioned it separates between the waw, which is waw al-atf, and the waw, which is waw al-jama'a. Is there certain verbs that, with certain letters, they don't attach, the waw will not attach. Not the case? Give me an example of a letter that the waw will not attach to it directly. There's the dal, the dal, ra. So if you have to say, for example, farru, if you were to write that, they fled. Farru here, if I don't have this alif, it can be, especially when you're reading without the harakat, it can be farra wa. Farra, he fled and. So in order to clarify, it's not he fled and, they have brought this alif, said farru. This clearly indicates that this alif, it follows that waw al-jama'a, yeah, waw al-jama'a, and indicates that this is a dhamir. It's not waw al-atf, the waw which is used to connect, for conjunction between words. Clear, inshallah? So referred to as alif al-fariqa has no effect. It doesn't affect anyway. And alif al-fariqa will become apparent when waw al-jama'a is there on its own. So if you have to bring it to the present tense, dhahaba, for the group you would say, dhahabu. I will bring the alif when I'm writing it. Then what's the present tense of they're going now, the group of men? They're going. Yadhabuna. Yadhabuna. If I bring lam, what will lam do to that verb? It will remove the noon. So I will say lam yadhabu, and I will bring the alif there as well. As long as the waw al-jama'a is on its own, they bring the alif. It's forged waw al-jama'a. I'm repeating this why? Because sometimes the verb, what do you do with the verb nad'u, for example? Nad'u. What does that mean? Nad'u. No, we're calling. Nad'u. Am I going to bring an alif after that waw and say nad'u and bring alif? I won't bring an alif after nad'u. This is a common mistake that happens even you find in the books and articles sometimes. They'll bring the verb nad'u. and then they'll bring the alif farq. This is unnecessary. Why? Because this waw is not waw jama'ah. This waw is min asl al-fi'l. It's from the root letters of the verb. It's from the verb da'awa. So this waw is actually from the asl. It's an asl from the verb. It's from the original letters of the word. So I don't need to bring it. But I only bring it for all jama'ah.
The following verb is fa'alna. As you can see, after the author splits the verb from the dhamir, nun here what they refer to as nun al-inath, and some refer to it as nun al-niswa. And they have selected or favored nun al-inath over nun al-niswa min hayth al-tahqiq, because nun al-niswa indicates the nun for the women, but nun al-inath is more general. It can be for any feminine being or object. So the fa'il here will be nun al-inath, fa'alna. And you can see also from this point that when nun al-inath attached itself to the verb, the last letter of the verb took a sukoon. This is because it is referred to as a dhamir, or is from the category of dhamir raf mutaharrik. So nun al-inath and the likes of nun al-inath, when they attach to verbs, they make the last letter of the verb take a sukoon. They call it damiru raf'in mutaharrik. The author then says fa'altuma. So you have fa'al and then tuma. The dhamir is going to be tuma. And again, this is from the category of dhamir of mutaharrik. Basically from nun al-inath onwards, they're going to be from the category of dhamir of mutaharrik. Fa'altum likewise, fa'ala and then tum. The verb ends at fa'ala and then you have this dhamir tum. Which they will say the ta is the dhamir. They will say the ta is the dhamir. And they will say mim is alama lil jam. Is a sign that the fa'il is a plural. When they break it down further, you may find this. They will say the ta is the dhamir and the mim is alama lil jam. It's a sign that it's a plural. But also for tuma, they will say the ta is the dhamir and the mim is lil imad, when the alif is alif al-ithnain. And what they mean by mim lil imad is that the mim basically it relies upon that the alif relies upon that mim. So it does istinad. It relies upon it. So that if you were to write the verb, you would write it in that context, or you write it in that structure. The tu, then they have the mim, and then the alif. The reality is, if you were to take that mim and drop it, would it be possible to write the alif right after the tu? For tuma, we're just trying to understand why they refer to that alif as, or the mim as mim al-imad. Why is that mim referred to as mim al-imad? We mentioned that the alif needs that mim in order for it to be there. Yani they selected the mim because you already have the mim for the jam', tum. So there's a presence of mim which is found when using plurals anyway, or pronouns I should say. So when we come to this verb, fa'altuma, we have tuma. If we were to drop that mim, is it possible for us to write the alif after the tu immediately? It's not possible, because the alif, it has to come after fatha. So that's why it's called mim al-imad. The alif needs it in order for it to be there. Otherwise, it relies upon it. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible to write the alif there. But then this is just like a bit of a breakdown as to the names of these pronouns. So fa'altuma, we have fa'altu and then the ma. So the breakdown is that the tu is the dhamir. That's actually your fa'il. And the mim is for imad, mim lil imad, and then the alif is alif al-ithnain. So we've understood now why the mim is there, right? It's not possible for you to write the alif immediately after the tu, because the alif has to be preceded by fatha, and it's not preceded by fatha in this case. Likewise for فعلتم, they say that the ta is the dhamir and the mim is for the jam. So the jam. Yeah, I say alif lil-imad as well. Lil-imad. Then you have tunna, similar fa'al tunna, fa'ala, and then tunna. The two is again the dhamir, and the noon is a sign of femininity. يعني علامة للتأنيث. It's a plural this time. So if you say fa'al tunna, the same thing again applies. The two is the dhamir, and you have the noon here, which is علامة, a sign لجمع الإناث. It's a sign that there's a plural, or there's a group of females or feminine objects, you say, or beings. Then he says فعلت he puts them all here بالحركات الثلاثة, يعني meaning with the fatha, kasra, and the dhamma. So the ta is going to be fa'il. Ta'ul fa'il, that's what they call it. Ta'ul fa'il. That's the dhamir. Then you have fa'alna, and this noon here is noon al-fa'ilin, or na'ul fa'ilin, I should say. Na al-fa'ilin. This is a na for the group of fa'ils. واضح? So this is a breakdown of these pronouns. We've added a bit to it, just to bring some more clarity. Let's take the qaida and finish here. He says, القاعدة, the principle, الحرف الأخير من الفعل يسكن إذا كان الضمير الفاعل المتصل متحركا. Pay attention to this. He says that the last letter of the verb يسكن, يعني is given a sukun. When is this? إذا كان الضمير الفاعل, if the one doing the action, ضمير الفاعل, is الضمير الفاعل متصل متحركا. If that pronoun for the fa'il that is connected, the connected pronoun for the fa'il. So far what we've taken in this entire chart above is a connected pronoun, which is a fa'il. But he gives a condition to it and he says mutaharrikan, it's taking a haraka. So we said that this is referred to as dhamir raf mutaharrik. When it starts from nun al-inath in your chart, you want to highlight it for yourself, the previous chart, starting from nun al-inath, the nun for the group of females, or the group of feminine beings or objects, from there all the way to the end, this is what he's intending. If that type of a pronoun connects itself to the verb, what is the result? You have to give a sukun to the letter before it. You're going to give a sukun to it. مثل فعلنا, he says, like فعلنا, ويضم مع واو الجماعة. Another point is, when واو الجماعة attaches itself to the verb, the general ruling is that it should take the dhamma, يعني meaning the last letter of the verb should take a dhamma. So you will say فعلوا, خرجوا, جلسوا, شربوا. That does change to a fatha, but in scenarios that we're not going to discuss in this book. He says ويبقى مفتوحا في غير ذلك, and the last letter of the verb remains as a fatha and other than this. So alhamdulillah, you have also a breakdown when the verb will take a sukun, when it will take a fatha, and when it will take a dhamma. And these are the three ahwal, the three states, even when you're studying grammar, for the fi'l madi. They say الفعل الماضي مبني على الفتحة, الفعل الماضي مبني على السكون, and فعل الماضي مبني على الضم. They mention these three cases. He wants us to do a tasrif, practice the conjugation of the coming verbs. What I would like to do here at this point is get some practice with these pronouns. So what we'll do is we'll give a few minutes, maybe about 10 minutes. We'll see how many verbs that we can find from the Quran which we've taken. So going back to your jadwal, your chart, you're going to see as many of those verbs that you can get in 10 minutes only. I'm only going to give 10 minutes. You're going to look for as many of those verbs that you can find in the Quran. Right now, we'll just get that practice in, inshallah. There's a question with regard to the principle that we mentioned. كل ضمير مستتر فهو متصل أيضا. ضمير مستتر. The verb, when it has a ضمير, a fa'il, what we mean by this is like verb for in the past tense. فعل and فعلت. The single male هو, single female here. These two verbs, the fa'il is mustatir, it's concealed within the verbs. So if I was to say to you, أين فاطمة? Where's Fatima? And you said ذهبت, your answer was ذهبت إلى المدرسة. She went to the school. I asked you أين فاطمة? Your response was ذهبت إلى المدرسة. She went to the madrasa. Where is the fa'il in ذهبت? There is a pronoun which is understood to be concealed in the verb, which is here. جيد? So this verb, it has a pronoun which is connected. يعني meaning, in other words, when it's mustatir hidden, it has to also connect to the verb. The dhamir mustatir cannot stand alone. It always has to connect to the verb. So كل ضمير مستتر is also متصل. كل ضمير مستتر is also متصل, meaning that it always has to connect to the verb. It cannot be independent of the verb, the ضمير مستتر. Where is it doing its istitar? Istitar is to conceal. Where is it doing its istitar? Where is it concealing itself? It's concealing itself in the verb. واضح. So that's what's intended by this principle. كل ضمير مستتر فهو متصل أيضا. إن شاء الله we'll stop here.